What is up, sexy roggers? Today for you, something a little special, something I've been planning to do for a little while. You will excuse me if the quality of the microphone isn't top notch, plus in addition to that I'm also sick, so you know, I've been trying to make this as incomprehensible as possible, so as to make it a little bit tougher for you. Jokes aside, this is meant to be a comprehensive guide on how to start with Balrog, covering basics, definitely not going into the most complicated stuff that will definitely come later on your learning curve for the character. Please make sure to use timestamps as well, so as to skip unnecessary parts that maybe you have already covered yourself. Balrog's archetype isn't necessarily typical per se, compared to the much more common Shoto archetype who will try to constantly fireball or footsie his way in.
It's the war equivalent of holding a midget at arm's length. He's flailing and you're just kicking him in the bollocks like that.
Balrog is a little different, and that's mainly because of one big part of his game plan, which is the threat of the dash straight. The fact that at any moment he can come at you with a -4 barely punishable move, only reactable at long distances, makes him constantly a threat while holding charge. And yes, Balrog is a charge character, but that shouldn't scare you. This threat alone really changes how opponents approach the matchup, and will make them very jumpy usually. Instead of acting scared and choosing unsafe options to get in, better, wiser, higher ranked opponents will understand that Balrog needs to be engaging the footsie distance, not letting him decide the spacing of the battle, thus making his dash straight unsafe and punishable. In this video we will cover first his arsenal, his toolkit in general, his main anti-air options, his combo routes, especially the easy ones to start, and in conclusion we will also take care of B-skills and Vtriggers, also with some notable synergies between them. Welcome to the training menu. Familiarize with these screens, as you will have to operate them often in order to practice. Whatever the object of your practice will be in the future, make sure to practice them both left side and right side, as the inputs will change. Also, don't forget to turn on attack data and key display in order to keep track of both frames and your inputs. The second screen you should familiarize with is the dummy settings. What you will tweak here will heavily depend on what you're trying to practice. If it was combo, say, you would put the dummy to knock guard. The other sections of the dummy settings allow you to play against the CPU, another friend, or also to have a playback recording. As you will see later on in the video, this is another invaluable tool that will come in very handy. There's a limit of 5 playbacks that you can record, but those are plenty enough. Without further ado, let's get into it, shall we? Starting with the fun stuff, aka specials. Balrog's more commonly known for one move in particular, the dash straight. Also known as dash punch or straight, this move can psychologically impair your opponents, just by existing. You don't even have to use it. Here's a brief historical detour to make you understand this key concept. At the climax of what is known as the Cold War, a period of geopolitical tension between the two main superpowers, meaning the Soviet Union and the United States, an event referred to as the Cuban Missile Crisis took place. As the US stored Jupiter ballistic missiles in Turkey and Italy, Soviet's first secretary Khrushchev struck a deal with Castro in order to store nuclear missiles in Cuba as a response. The tension was palpable. Not only the two main superpowers, but every country, everyone understood the stakes. The newfound nuclear power and its disastrous usage at the end of World War II in Japan definitely left a mark in cultures. And while some might say that the missile scare resolved itself in a whimper, its consequences were to be felt not only in immediate times, but for years to come. Starting to get my point?
Informative and sexy.
The point I was trying to make is that you don't have to use dash straight all the time. Sure, use it, but understand that the threat of its existence is enough to make the opponent make dumb mistakes. Make sure to learn to recognize the ranges at which light, medium, and heavy will connect, at which range they're punchable, and so on. EX version is 9 frames and +1 block. Varying in range with different strengths, just like dash straight, Balrog is also a dash low option. Much more unsafe on block, -7. It can be a good load check if people are walking too much, but it suffers from 2 issues, namely its low speed and its being heavily punishable on block. But its EX version is -2 on block, super fast, and covers a lot of ground. Executed through the DP motion plus kicks, Balrog has the upper. Upper is an interesting move that can serve many functions, but that also has one main flaw. It whiffs on crouching opponents. The EX version is an exception since it will hit crouchers and has armor on frame 3, meaning that it's not a true invincible reversal. It is also Balrog's only special that doesn't require any charging of any kind. As you can see from the video, the light, but in particular the medium version, serves as a good anti-air where people start neutral jumping while being scared of your dash straight. When Balrog decides to walk, therefore dropping charge, This means that one of the main ways to get a knockdown is nullified, meaning that you will probably have to resort to a target combo for a knockdown. Thankfully, Balrog has two buttons that will force the opponent's character to stand while being hit. Namely, standing medium punch, mostly a combo tool and your main anti-air, and crouching heavy punch, also an anti-air. Balrog's main jumping combo works exactly for this reason. Getting it from the air means overhead, which requires a crouching opponent, but the crouching heavy punch will force stand and the combo will work, leading to Balrog's buttons, or his normals. His fastest one is his 3-frame, standing light kick. It leads to a target combo, which is very good on hit, but kinda negative on block. Crouching medium punch is probably Balrog's best grounded button. Great poke, great whiff punish tool, great buffer tool, great pressure tool. Leads to a tick throw. This button has it all. It's also utilized in many useful beginner block strings, which you should learn. Crouching light punch is also very good, +3 on block, leads to a tick throw, and so on. Considering that a character's fastest normal cannot exceed the speed of 3 frames, you're gonna build block strings around that. A good block string usually serves a couple purposes, the first being keeping you safe while also leaving a gap long enough for the opponent to press a button, and the second being that the relationship between the buttons that you're pressing is so that if the opponent presses a button, you can connect into a combo. Standing medium kick is also a good button. It's good for walking on an opponent, and if it counters, you can also connect into itself and into the target combo. Standing heavy kick, sometimes called roundhouse, is a really good button for Balrog. It's +3 on block, hits like a truck, crush counters into a full combo. Abuse it. Crouching medium punch and standing heavy punch are good pokes for Balrog, in addition to the fact that he can poke you from the other side of the freaking moon. Crouching medium kick is a 7-frame low check. It's pretty good, other than the fact that it cannot cancel into specials. It does lead to a target combo that it's unsafe on block, but it can be made safe through Vtrigger activation. Standing medium punch is his best anti-air 5-frame startup, very fast. Not really a pressure tool, more of a combo tool and anti-air. Crouching light kick, 4-frame low, serviceable. Nothing to say there except that it leads to target combo. Standing light punch, really good range for a 4-frame jab. This tool 1 is a skin that can be done empty into a punch or into an overhead. Makes Balrog great against fireball characters, and especially if paired with Vtrigger 1, it gives him deadly mix-up value. Not that Vtrigger 2 ain't scary, take a look. As you can see, Visco 1 can be used to extend the first hit of EX dash straight both on hit and on block, or with different input windows to cancel any dash move into a V-skill. Its utility goes way far beyond these reasons, but it's a starter guide, so we'll stop here. V-skill 2 is a char V-skill that improves your next dash straight, makes it safe on block, +4 on EX. You can juggle combo out of it too. You can also charge it, cancelling off upper and other target combos. The catch here is that it also improved Balrog's dash up and walk up game, since with V-skill charged, you will be able to connect into dash straight without chargeless. I'd say while I understand that it's more fun to spin around the neighborhood with Balrog and V-skill 1, don't completely overlook this V-skill, as it will be very important in certain matchups. Tap or turnaround punch is a special that Balrog can do while holding down 2 buttons, therefore giving them up. It gets better the longer you charge it, it has some projectile invulnerability, can be cancelled into V-skill 1, but in my opinion, unless the matchup requires it, not really worth giving up 2 buttons. We will now go over some basic combos for Balrog, mainly explaining when and why they are important. The double crouching light punch into straight, usually used to check an opponent advancing on you. If you point blank, you can add another standing light punch at the end. You can also add a light low in the middle to check people from walking, or even start with a low altogether to check them toes. Cancelable lights will connect into light upper if the opponent is standing, of course. Otherwise, make the best of it with target combo. Any medium combo into medium upper is pretty good for damage, not so good for Oki. This one in particular has standing medium punch, so that it will always force stand and connect the upper. Just keep in mind that standing medium punch only works point blank kinda. These are also the only 2 mediums that will connect into heavy dash straight. Crouching medium punch will connect into the light one for dash straight, while the opposite only works on counter. If you can connect standing medium kick, then you can connect his medium target combo. Has different enders with different knockdowns. Pretty good Oki. Careful though, as it usually is with target combos, heavily negative on block. If standing heavy kick hits close enough, you can link the following mediums into all the things that we've seen, including dash low, as you will see shortly. This button is particularly useful because it leads to your biggest party starter crush counter combo. We will see that shortly. CROSSUPS. Yeah, no, to anyone complaining about Balrog, let's remove their YOLO jumping CROSSUPS and let's see how far they get. We will now go over the 3 main crush counters at Balrog's disposal. After standing heavy punch crush counter, you can only get close with a dash low cancel. You can also confirm critical art off of it. Some people can do it on normal hit. I'm a scrub and can't. The most optimal route to go into after crouching heavy punch crush counter is definitely level 1 tap into straight. Since we're probably being smart and not holding tap to begin with, you're gonna want to press medium and heavy punch at the same time. Learn to release at the correct time and then confirm. The standing heavy kick crush counter is the most important one and leads to your best options. This is the most standard confirm, no meter dump, dash low for better OP. If the CA option is on deck, sure, traumatize them with that damage. Otherwise, you might consider spending 2 bars or faking the last one for a mix-up. Otherwise, if point blank, since people have been asking me since the dawn of time, this is the better option, most damage meterless, and since the opponent is still grounded, you retain all the possibility to go for overhead, resets, you name it. Learn to use the dummy settings to record people doing super unsafe stuff, which they will do. Remember to turn it on and then start your practice. You will have to practice these combos in the training room every day, or you won't be able to perform them in a live match. Establish early on the good habit of going to matches just to practice specific things. And trust me, eventually the losses won't feel as bad. Due to pressure in the beginning, you will fuck up a lot. It's inevitable. You will do mock-up versions of the combos you intended to do. Just make sure you don't forget that that's something you will need to work on in the future. As you go along, you will find 10 players who are just as bad as this dummy. If you end up finding out that the moves that they're abusing in neutral are at least -3 or above, you can definitely light target combo punish if they're in range. Little by little, you will upgrade your punishes over time, making them more deadly. While we've seen the Vtrigger 2 grants Balrog a grab, Vtrigger 1 gives him the Rekkas. The Rekkas function well both with straights and lows and can be combined with V-Skill 1 to mix up the opponent. It increases both Balrog's neutral, his damage potential, and his mix-up value. So now you might be thinking, oh, the Ryu from before, I wish I could do the same thing, but spinning and with V-Skill 1 while being super cool. Yeah, especially when they're doing shit like that. So if I'm not mistaken, you want the ability to do something pretty much like this. Psych, I'm too tired. No, I'm sick. I gotta study, I gotta do other things. By the way, 12 minutes, guys. I think it's enough for you to get started with the thing, right? Like, it's way more than enough. Right? You can go. There's nothing else. I'm not even gonna put it on screen. I did a video already on the Vtrigger. You can go, like, you know, it's in the playlists. You know how to operate a playlist, right? You can go Google it, like, whatever. Peruse through my channel. You can do it. See if I care. Bye.